How long does it take for the flame of ambition to eventually grow and burn you to a crisp? The very same flame that Margit the fell omen seemed to mock you for having. The same flame that resides within your chest, the one that you are. Ambition is good, important even. It is the fuel that keeps you going, that enables your drive. But you, yourself, must be in control of it, no one else. It must be tempered by your own rationale. Only when it is influenced by an outside source does it stop being ambition and instead becomes manipulation wearing ambition's skin. In Elden Ring, I believe Mohg and Morgott are perfect examples of an external force that can manipulate, abuse, and delude you. These twins, these omens, whilst they have travelled different paths and have different philosophies, I believe that they both fell victim to similar manipulations which ultimately led them to their similar fates. Me, my blade, and my sorceries.
Before we get into the meat of the video, I just want to say this is not a lore video. This is a video of a guy talking about his experience and interpretations as he plays through Elden Ring. I haven't finished Elden Ring. I've only done a little bit of research, like looking at for this video what the Formless Mother is, some little bits about Mohg and Morgott, but for the most part this is just my interpretations and what I'm finding as I play the game and how it's making me feel and how hopefully it can help you feel better about life and just yourself in general. Things might even be a little inaccurate and you can comment below if you want to correct them, just I ask that you don't be a dick. And also if you could leave a like, it would really help the channel out, and also subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also become a channel member, and we also have a free Discord where I'm building a really nice community of people and it's really active. We've got about 50 or 60 odd members now and it's just a really nice place to be. It's really great, it's very active. And you'd be more than welcome to join if you fancied it. So with all that out of the way, let's crack on with the video. But first, a history lesson. 4.4 billion years ago, not long after the Earth came into existence, when it was still a lava-ridden, unlivable ball floating through our solar system, it actually gained a sibling, and its name was Theia. It was another planet which had fallen into Earth's orbit, and for a long time Earth was no longer alone. Theia was smaller, approximately similar size to Mars, but it floated in the same gravitational orbit as Earth, and its environment was almost identical to Earth. It still had lava, lots of rock. It was just pretty much its twin, essentially. But one day, as the pair floated together side by side, a gravitational disturbance pulled them closer together, and eventually they would crash into each other. And by some stroke of absolute luck, and when I say this, I mean this puts it into perspective of how lucky we are to be alive, Earth survived the crash, but Theia was mostly destroyed. And from that moment on, from the rubble, we had two moons, until Earth kind of devoured one of the other moons, and now the one that we know as Luna is the only one that remains. In fact, that crash is the reason our Earth is on a 23-degree angle, and that's why seasons are so extreme or not extreme depending on where you are. And you know the rest, right? A few billion years later, life begins to form, dinosaurs come into existence, and then very quickly they go into extinction. New life forms, evolution into humans, humans form civilizations, and here we are. Now, in the early stages of humanity, obviously we had no idea about all of the complexities of the solar system and science and stuff. We only had broad strokes and basic ideas just based on interpretations and what we experienced and what we felt and what we saw. But one of the ways that we chose to explain some of this stuff and rationalize some of this stuff was fables, stories, myths, legends, and religion. We humans are incredibly unique in comparison to other creatures because we have the ability to tell stories and trigger the imagination in such vivid ways. It's one of my favourite things about just being a person and just being alive. But it was how we made sense of a lot of stuff. In the name of these myths and legends, we created these gods and religion, and these gods were often used as an excuse to do some pretty terrible things as human beings. We would sacrifice, enslave, oppress, murder people, all in the name of some sort of god that we have never actually seen, that we just started to rationalize. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether or not God exists or not, that I'm here to talk about Elden Ring, and we will get to that in a minute. What I am saying is, in our infancy as human beings, we used religion, and we still kind of do, but it was very, very extreme back then. I mean, it still is. I'm talking in circles. But we used religion as a way to explain things and excuse a lot of the terrible things that we did. But we are extremely lucky that those gods, they never physically appeared and they never turned out to be real. I'm not saying that your god is not real, but I am saying we've never physically seen them. We only ever have texts and gospel and words to go off, right? We are incredibly lucky that if those gods do exist, they did not turn up, because if they did turn up, I believe we would be in such a worse place. And that's what separates our real life from fantasy. In Elden Ring, The Elder Scrolls, Lord of the Rings, D&D even, in all of those worlds, gods very much exist, they're very real, and then because they're real, they give us magic and they give us all these things, and we never have a reason to really progress into science in those worlds, because we have magic and gods. Why would we do anything else? But in those worlds, because they are real, people will do a lot of terrible things for them. People will sacrifice other people, murder people, just do a lot of awful things. They will commit to terrible rituals. And so with that in mind, I would like to talk about Mohg and Morgott. Mohg and Morgott, it sounds like the name of a construction company. Mohg and Morgott were born as omens. In Elden Ring, it's my understanding that they are creatures or kind of people that were born with a deformity, but they were never always considered deformities though, not until the Greater Will came about and Marika's rule and all that. Omens were actually seen as something really impressive, and they were like the dominant species amongst people. Marika didn't see it as grace. I would argue, and I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I get the vibe that maybe she saw them as a threat to her power. Now, if you were born as an omen in this world, to just a completely normal family, you would be killed on sight straight away. But if you were born to like a rich family or a noble family or a royal family like Marika, or maybe even the Karian family, you would be sent down into the sewers to live the rest of your life below everyone in what is essentially hell. You could maybe make the argument that they're being saved by being kept alive, but it's not really a life worth living. We don't know the specifics of Mohg and Morgott whilst they were living down there. At least I don't. If there is like a lot of detailed backstory on that, I'd love to hear it, but from what I can tell, there doesn't seem to be loads on that. It's kind of up to just like figuring stuff out. But Mohg and Morgott, they are twins of Marika and Godfrey, and they were born omens and sent down into the sewers. Both of them wound up on very different paths. Let's start off with Morgott, right? I get the feeling that Morgott was ashamed to be an omen. That's why he shaved off half of his horns. I don't know why he didn't do the rest. Maybe it was just too painful and he couldn't do it. He clearly didn't want to be an omen. And there's clearly a lot of self-hatred going on there. But also, I said in a video previously called Morgott I Was Wrong, that I feel like he secretly does enjoy being the omen that he is, and that's why he has Margit. I know that the in-law explanation is Margit is sent out of Lanedale. It's like a projection of himself, sent out of Lanedale to deal with Tarnished and deal with stuff that he can't whilst he's near the Erd Tree. But I also get the feeling that it gives him an excuse to be the omen that he is, to kind of wreak havoc on people. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty confident in that, actually, so yeah, that's my interpretation. But yeah, Morgott, for whatever reason, he still loved the Greater Will and the Erd Tree, and he wanted to be on the same level as his siblings. I don't know whether it's some weird Stockholm syndrome that he's got towards the Erd Tree and the Greater Will, but for whatever reason, he just loved it, and ironically, he is the only one that didn't fall from grace. He's the only one that stayed by the Greater Will's side to the very end. But the irony in this is the Greater Will, the Erd Tree and the Golden Order, they don't like him. They view him as an abomination, as an omen. Morgott, when he is Margit, he's the one that tells you that, you know, your flame of ambition is a waste of time or something along those lines.
Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Now, I do believe that Morgott has a flame of ambition, otherwise he wouldn't be doing all that he does. He wouldn't have made it as far as he has. But I believe that because he has let himself get so deluded by the greater will and the Erd Tree and that, I believe that really he's being manipulated by an outer force, this god, which in real life wouldn't show its face or whatever, but in the world of Elden Ring, it's evident that these gods, like the greater will and another one which we'll get to in a minute, it's evident that they are real. Because there's a massive tree that kind of proves it. But I think it's like he's being used by this thing. He's upholding a system that clearly really hates him. His flame of ambition is being wasted on something else. It's not him. It's not his ambition. It's somebody else's ambition. And it's almost futile because it's never going to lead him anywhere good. And then there is his brother, Mohg, who is almost on the opposite side of the spectrum. He too is an omen, and he, for whatever reason, wound up on the side of a different god. Maybe he discovered it whilst he was in the sewers, maybe it came to him, or maybe he cut himself and he started bleeding and that's what led this god to appear. Mohg goes in the completely opposite direction to Morgott. He keeps all of his horns, he embraces who he is, and rather than going to work for a system that hates him like Morgott, he goes with a different kind of god called the Formless Mother. The Formless Mother, from what I understand, is the god of blood and wounds, but this god seems to be almost in opposition to the greater will, but in kind of a worse and much more violent way. When you go to try and find Mohg, when you go through Mohgwyn Place and stuff, there is a lot of blood surrounding it and a lot of violence. I mean, there is a lot of violence in the Lands Between anyway, but in Mohgwyn Place, or Palace, or whatever it's called, I can't fully remember, it's much more prevalent and much more guttural.
Okay. Alright, that's fine.
And Mohg is trying to use its power to overthrow the greater will and start his own empire. But to do that, he needs a vessel. He needs an actual god. And he steals the body of Miquella. Miquella is a demigod. He is the son of Radagon and Marika, and I know that that's what the Shadow of the Erd Tree is about. I haven't actually fully started it yet, but I have got there. But it's my understanding from what I've looked up that Miquella is cursed with eternal youth. He put himself in a cocoon so he could grow, and the cocoon is filled with blood, and Mohg stole that cocoon and is trying to use his blood and become his consort to basically use him as a vessel for the Formless Mother so they can rule together. But the thing is, Miquella has never consented to that. He's never agreed to do that with Mohg. Whenever you hear about Miquella and when you finally defeat Mohg, which I did, and I will get to that in a minute, it was one of the best fights in the entire game. I did some of it on stream, and then typical me, I beat it after stream. But anyway, Miquella is always described as the kind or kindly, and I don't think Miquella would ever agree to this blood ritual weird ass shit. So again, with Mohg, his ambition is almost just a manipulation by this other thing, this other Formless Mother, this god. Again, it's quite tragic because even though he's embraced who he is, even though he's doing something that he believes is right, that will overthrow this system that hates him, he's working with a new entity, a new deity that is against the greater will. He's still being manipulated and he's still being used. Mohg is kind of just delusional, very powerful, but delusional. And that's what I mean when I talk about Mohg and Morgott, about how they're both being manipulated by these things that ultimately won't get them anywhere. Let's talk about the gods for a minute, right? I have very, very, very limited knowledge on who they are and what they are. I just know about the Greater Will. I know kind of about the Frenzied Flame. There's the Formless Mother. I don't know of any others right now. Maybe I have heard of them. I don't know if like Fear and her whole death thing, I don't know if that counts. Again, in the comments you can let me know. But this is what I like about fantasy, because it kind of brings up the idea that, and I'm not even like a big fantasy fan, but one of the things that appeals to me about it is in fantasy, these gods are very much real. They very much exist. It's like it brings out the worst in people. Fantasy asks the question, okay, if these gods exist and they're making you do horrible stuff, or they're making you do some things that you wouldn't normally do if they didn't exist. Are those the kind of gods that you really want around? You know, like in the Bible, there's Abraham who goes to sacrifice his son and never does it in the end because God tells him, oh, you don't need to do it, I was just testing you. But it kind of poses the question, okay, let's say we're in a world where all these gods continue to exist and they're very real. How are you going to deal with that? And in Elden Ring, not only do these gods exist, they've created their own avatars and their own followers, and they've allowed people to become demigods. I guess those are avatars. You know, Marika, Radagon, Mikola, Radahn, Rani, Rykard, Morgott, Mohg. Oh, and Melania, who I've recently started to fight, and you weren't joking, were you? She is traumatized. I love the concept of just figuring out how do you fit into a world where these gods and these people exist. You're kind of a normal person, right? You're in this world, you're tarnished, which means they see you as something wrong with you. You're a person and you're fighting your way through it. What do you make of all these gods? How are you going to deal with all of that? How would you live in this world? And then, you know, you get extra layers, like the fact that Mohg and Morgott are both omens, and what does that mean? How do they fit into this world? Does that mean that there's something wrong with them as well, or are they actually a blessing, but society has deemed something wrong with them? But it also leaves way for these gods to manipulate them. It's a new way to manipulate them. As I said, I'm not here to tell you whether or not God exists. I have a very strange relationship with God. I don't know if I believe in him. I think I do in a way, but I also go through phases where I'm like, it's a load of rubbish, but I believe more in like Taoism and Buddhism. I went through a massive spiritual phase during COVID, which was years ago, and it's kind of still stuck with me a bit. I think you have to be careful about how you believe in things. If you're doing terrible things and if you're saying horrible things to people because of your God, or if you're being bigoted because you believe that some sort of text told you to be that way, that's not the kind of God you should be following. Like, I hate the phrase God-fearing. It really unsettles me, because why? I don't believe that God would want you, if he existed, I don't believe God would actually want you to fear him. Why would you want to fear something, but then at the same time you're meant to worship and love them? If you fear someone, but you love them, that's an abusive relationship. And you can't, like, no matter how many justifications I hear for it, that is an abusive relationship. That's toxic. And I don't think your relationship with God should be a toxic one, right? Anyway, I'm going way off track, but I then did have a fight with Mohg, and it was possibly my favourite fight of the entire game. It was really well designed. I did some of it on stream, and people were giving me some advice on my Mimic tier. Turns out he was way underleveled. I needed to upgrade him. I never upgrade my Spirit Ashes for some reason. And it was just a lot of figuring out the moveset, figuring out what I can do, and I was consistently making him kneel and, you know, critical hitting him. It was a really, really good fight, and you had to get used to his range. I had to get used to when to perfectly dodge his hits. I was dodging way too soon and getting hit a lot, but in the end I did it. I think it's genuinely one of my most favourite fights in the entire game. I really loved Rykard. I know that he's a bit of a gimmick boss maybe, but I kind of liked the fact that it was a bit gimmicky. I liked the fact that I had this weapon to fight him with. I liked that I had to figure it out and dodge things, and I really enjoyed Rykard. I really loved the Volcano Mana story, I don't know if you can tell. But the reason I believe that you, the player, the Tarnished, can easily beat these gods, or at least, well, not easily, but you can do it and you fight your way through it. I believe that the reason you are so successful in this is because your ambition is your own. You're not being manipulated by some god or some greater will. I mean, maybe you are, depending on who you're role-playing as or what story you're going through, but mostly you are in this world alone and you're going through it for your own benefit, and you are trying to learn about yourself. I know that I have learned a lot about myself playing this game. It's definitely helped me with my mental health and overcoming obstacles, and it's helped me turn this channel into something incredible. Your ambition isn't driven by some external force, unlike Mohg and Morgott and some other people in that world. But I also feel like I should tell you, your flame of ambition, it's not inside of you. You are that flame of ambition. That is what you are. Your drive, your dreams, your purpose, it's all you. It's not just inside of you, it's you. Remember that. You might think that you don't have a drive or you don't have the ability to keep going, but you do. You just need to do it. When I was in university, right, I had this lecturer. He was so great. His name's Yanis. Maybe he'll watch this. I don't know. I don't know if he ever watches my stuff, but Yanis was a great guy, really lovely. And he would often come out with these really cool little philosophical quotes. I don't know if they were his own or if he got them somewhere, and he had a way of saying things. And at one point, he looked at us all in the class and he went, "The great thing about your generation," I'm not going to do the accent. I'm not. He said, "The great thing about your generation is when you start something, you are incredible at it, you exceed at it, you speed through it, and you can do something incredible. But the problem is actually getting you to start." And you could kind of look around the room and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that is true. I do struggle to start." And it is true, like there have been so many projects and so many things that I've done that I've not been able to start properly, or maybe I would do some of it but not have the heart to keep restarting every day or carrying on with it every day. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of drive, and you just have to tap into it. You have to realise that you just have to do it. At one point I was struggling to get out of bed in the morning, even though I knew I wanted to get up early and do more work. And at one point someone said to me, "You've just got to do it. You just have to really figure out what your motivation is for doing it and how you're going to do it." But I think one example of when your ambition can take you too far and can burn you is Sorcerer Sellen. Now, when you first meet Sorcerer Sellen, it's very, very early in the game. It's in Limgrave, and you meet her in the basement of some ruins. And she basically decides that you are going to be her apprentice, and she's going to teach you some sorceries, and it's going to be a jolly old time. She's wearing one of those big glintstone masks, and she just seems pretty sound. At first she seems quite snarky and quite snobby, but she's Sellen, she's sound. Eventually, you go to Mount Gelmir, and you will find this kind of rock looking dude, but it says you can talk to it, and turns out it's actually a sorcerer called Master Azure, and he gives you a special spell, and if you go back to Sellen with it, you can then trigger a kind of quest line. And some things will happen. Turns out she was at Raya Lucaria and she was kind of like head honcho there and stuff, but because she wanted to study the forbidden magic called primeval sorcery, which she believed was like the original lineage of glintstone sorcery, she was kicked out of Raya Lucaria for this because they believed that studying that was heresy and that it was only going to lead you down a dark path. Sellen kind of tells you that, and you can kind of figure it out as you're playing through the game, that the Carian family is actually quite corrupt and that they've corrupted Raya Lucaria. And on first glance, that seems very true, and it kind of is true. You know me, anti-authoritarian. I was very much like, yeah, fuck the Carians. But then you look back on Master Azure and you think about the fact that he was just a rock who couldn't talk. He was a petrified rock. And then you get sent to go and find another master who has something that Sellen needs. His name is Master Lusat. You go and talk to them, and again, Master Lusat is just a big rock. And again, he was studying primeval sorcery. And I must be stupid because I didn't even think twice about that. I just thought, Elden Ring's weird, isn't it? Eventually, you find Sellen's new body. It's near where Rani is, and then you can go and meet her at Raya Lucaria, and you can choose to fight to take back Raya Lucaria with her. And I did that. Very fun. I thought, oh my god, Renala's no longer here. We've just beaten Raya Lucaria. She is now back in charge. We're best friends. I'm an apprentice. She's going to learn about primeval sorcery. Fuck yeah. And I was like, she is so justified in what she's doing. Her ambition is strong. It's brilliant. Then I went over to the site of Grace, leveled up, left, and then Renala was back there and I was confused. And then somebody told me to return to that area and look around. And then I saw it. And it was a bunch of those glintstone masks all formed in a big ball. And you go up to it and you can talk to it. And it's Sellen's voice. And she sounds like she's really struggling to sleep. Like, you know when you have sleep paralysis and you can't talk properly? All she can say is, "My apprentice." And you realise, at first glance, I thought, oh my god, can't believe Renala did this.
I can't believe you've done this.
But then you kind of realise that it was her study into primeval sorcery. And despite the warning signs of Master Lusat and Master Azure, she still went ahead with it, and she wasn't careful enough. I saw someone describe her as overconfident, but I don't believe she was overconfident. I just think she wasn't careful enough. Look, it is easy to say that Raya Lucaria and the Carians were, corrupt and wrong, and to some extent maybe they are, but maybe they were right on this one. Maybe they were right. Maybe you shouldn't really be looking into primeval sorcery too much. I don't know, but I think it's just a perfect example of someone's ambition going too far. And you need to know when to stop and when to be careful. Because her ambition, although I think it was respectable and admirable, she deluded herself rather than letting an external force delude her. It's like opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got Mohg and Morgott on one side, who's being manipulated by these gods, and on the other end, you've got Sellen, who is not being manipulated by anyone, but who is being just as deluded as they are by taking their ambition way too far. And look, I do think maybe she was right. Maybe there could be a way to study primeval sorcery, but she clearly didn't do it right, and she wasn't careful enough. It's just another tragedy. Before you left, she was saying how much, you know, how great you are, how you'll always be welcome at Raya Lucaria, how she'll always have your back, she gives you some weapons, she gives you some stuff. It's great. And to find her like this, it's utterly heartbreaking. And I really wish there was a way to get her out of it. Maybe there is, but I've got a feeling I'm never going to find that. Look, when Earth and Fear crashed into each other, maybe it was a little ambitious for them to be floating so close to each other in our solar system. Maybe they shouldn't have been doing that. I mean, clearly they shouldn't have. And their own ambition to float next to each other, these two gods, I know they're planets, but let's just call them gods. These two gods were overly confident and far too ambitious in what they did. But the Earth is still here, and it gave birth to us, it gave birth to our ambition. Inside of it is its core, its own flame of ambition, and I think that should give us hope. I think it should give us hope that we are here, that Earth exists. The fact that it made it through the collision course with Thea is kind of incredible. It allowed us to grow and evolve, and the planet itself has grown and evolved with it, but you know, we kind of are ruining it with global warming and terrible politics and just terrible ideologies that we've got, and religion does play a little bit of a part in that, unfortunately. But look, as I said, I want you to leave this video feeling maybe a little bit more hopeful, maybe feeling good about yourself, maybe feeling like, you know, you could achieve something. I never want people to leave my videos feeling depressed or feeling sad. So just take everything that I said about ambition and just try and apply it to your life. I know it's easier said than done, but just trust me, that is the way to go. Just follow your ambition, follow your dreams. You've got this. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. If you're a channel member, I'm going to put your names here, and just thank you so much for being a member. It really means a lot. Big shout out to Derek Arthur, Pwefu, Split Prude, Travis Baker, Frog and Toad, and Namfam. Genuinely couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the fact you're members. And you can also become a channel member yourself if you want to get videos early, and if you want to join private Discord chats. It's all there. It's all great. We've still got some members who haven't joined the Discord. So if you're a member and you're watching this, join the Discord and you'll get more early access to things, and you'll get some behind the scenes stuff and even some input sometimes. And yeah, if you could leave a like on the video, if you're new, if you could subscribe, would mean the world to me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to be streaming some more me playing Elden Ring. I think it'd be quite funny to stream me fighting Melania until I beat her. And I also want to set a goal for when I'm streaming, that if I get a certain amount of donations, I am going to do a 10-minute rap, freestyle rap to a beat, and it will not be good. It won't be good, but if you want to see me do that, join the stream, donate some money, and I will eventually do a freestyle rap. I can't rap. I'm not good. I'm not good at it. Don't expect much. It's going to be terrible. Thank you for watching, and yeah, see you in a while, crocodile. Elden Ring. Elden Ring. Gonna fight Millennia. Y2K, bitch. Suck on my tits.